Welcome to today's conversation. We're going to be talking about box 7 out of 10 that we're creating for this Enter the Attic series. There's going to be a total of 10 boxes. And today's box is titled The Weight. Not the kind we carry in our hands, but the kind we carry in our hearts. Because for many years, I carried a weight that I didn't even realize was there. Even though my brother and I grew up in the same family experiences, life invited us down very different paths. In fact, well, I wouldn't say opposite paths, because there was a time when we were traveling the same path together, and it felt like, yay, we're taking each other along, we're doing this together. But in the end, the paths kind of separated and they went really different ways. My path eventually led me to asking deeper questions about life, awareness, and the beliefs we carry. And his path led him to profound anger and suffering, which eventually left him with um, an experience, and he now has severe traumatic brain injury, and he does not know who I am, and I miss him terribly. And through that experience, there was a revelation or a realization in me about the different paths that we took. Because for years, I believed the weight I was carrying was grief or sadness or concern. But one day I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The weight I carried wasn't about my brother or his life. It was about the belief that I wasn't allowed to fully live my own life. Without realizing it, I had created an invisible rule. I was the oldest of five of us. There were five of us kids, and I was the oldest. I was used to being in charge, taking charge, being in control, doing what needed to be done. And I realized at some point that I had created an invisible rule for myself that if he couldn't find peace, how could I? If his life had become so difficult, was it really okay for me to experience joy? I realized the weight wasn't coming from loving my brother. It was coming from a belief I'd quietly been carrying for years. The belief that I wasn't fully allowed to experience joy while he was suffering. And that belief, it felt incredibly heavy. The weight was indescribable. That's what I've discovered about so many of the weights we carry. They're not always the circumstances themselves. They're the stories that we've quietly built around them, stories that tell us that we have to carry more, do more, be responsible for more, or somehow make ourselves smaller in order to honor someone else's pain. Or maybe in our mind, think, if we're smaller, they'll feel bigger, or if we feel less than, they can feel more than. But love never asked that of me. Love never asked me to carry my brother's life. It simply asked me to love him. That realization changed everything because I began to see that living life in a full and complete way wasn't a betrayal of my brother's journey. It was simply my life and my own path unfolding. So this week, I'd like to leave you with something to notice. Is there a place in your life where you're holding yourself back, where you're not fully living your life because you're waiting for someone else to feel better about theirs? Perhaps you've quietly believed that experiencing joy would somehow diminish your love, or that carrying more weight would somehow lighten theirs. But here's what I've discovered. You can't feel bad enough about someone's life, someone else's life. You just cannot feel bad enough about your own life or hold on to that weight to make someone else feel better about theirs. Life doesn't ask us to become smaller. Life invites us to be fully present, to love deeply, and to fully live the life we've been given. Box 8 is going to be about the blame. I'm sure you can see how that kind of follows the weight, right? Because along with the weight, what comes with it? It comes blame. And we'll explore the tendency to assign fault to ourselves and to others, or maybe even to life itself. So until next time, keep noticing what boxes are in your attic. Because when you realize, when you remember, when you recognize that life is an energy game, you can party like purple all day long. This is Nancy Muller, the one and only Life Sensei, asking you, what's in your box? And how long has it been stored in your attic?